Hi everyone, I'm Rache, and this session is about pricing and pitching Squarespace projects. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, so please let me know via the chat. I am Rache, and I'm the founder of Square Stylist. I'm also the creator of Standout Squarespace, where I mentor designers how to create the unexpected through code so you can charge with confidence. So today I'll be talking about pricing and pitching Squarespace projects. We'll cover the following. One is ways to price projects with ease by crafting an offer suite and by having a pricing framework and calculator, which I'll share. And then to be empowered to price, I believe that we need to match where Squarespace excels to what the customer values. And so I'll share the reasons why we choose Squarespace. And of course, to further boost your confidence, I'll share insights on how you can identify your specialty or what sets you apart as a service provider or brand. At the end of this presentation, we'll have time to field some questions, so please stick around or please put your questions in the chat. Allow me to start with a statement with a key insight from my years of pricing projects, which is that pricing gets complex when projects are unpredictable. Hence, the key to pricing with ease and excitement is to standardize and diversify our offers. This is why I'm such an advocate of creating an offer suite. An offer suite is a spectrum of offers with defined scope, pricing, and level of support or specialty. Our content, those which we share for free, is actually part of our offer suite. These content allow us to get in front of more audience. But paid products can actually serve the same purpose. So this is the structure of an offer suite. I'd like to preface that these values are arbitrary. Also, you don't have to offer all of these. Start 1 or 2 per tier. But this is how it looks like. We can have low-ticket offers, which are typically less than $100. For example, social media templates or checklists and live workshops. So it'll be such a good introduction to your brand. And then mid-ticket offers are priced less than your high-ticket offers, typically less than $5,000. And these are typically done with used services like a template restyle or a course, a mini branding package, design intensives or VIP days, as well as consultations. And the high-ticket tier is where we have custom projects that can range from 5K, 20K, 100K. The sky is the limit. And this tiered approach allows us not only to diversify our revenue streams, but it also allows us to cater to different client needs and budget. Also, it allows us to give an introduction, a glimpse of our expertise. These offers can be structured in a way wherein you have an overarching mission. For example, your brand is all about leading with your specialty, for example, SEO. Then you can use low-ticket or mid-ticket offers to reinforce that brand mission. Your low-ticket offer can be an SEO checklist for Squarespace sites. And then your mid-ticket offer can be an SEO audit or SEO consultation. For example, if your brand specialty is in terms of aesthetics, then probably your low-ticket offer can be social media templates. And the mid-ticket can be Squarespace templates, which showcase your unique style or aesthetics. In terms of pricing, low-ticket offers and mid-ticket offers have fixed pricing because they have standard scope, duration, process, and price. Ideally, customers can avail of these via a sales page where we don't need to pre-qualify them. They self-assess if these products are right for them. And then we don't have to send custom contracts because all they need to do is agree with the terms and conditions of this specific product. While high-ticket offers are more nuanced, we typically need to have an in-depth questionnaire or a discovery call to pre-qualify clients and have a better understanding of their requirements. 5K, 10K project sounds lucrative, but I should admit that it's quite daunting to always send custom contracts and proposals, have discovery calls every now and then. And so when I'm uncertain on how to price projects, I actually turn to my mid-ticket offers. For example, if a client come to me with a laundry list of tasks, for example, I worked on their website and then they need to optimize some pages, I will let them know that I actually offer design intensives or VIP days wherein I can work on those laundry list of tasks in a full day, but it is time bound, meaning I can just go through whatever I can throughout the day because it is a time bound service. In this mid-ticket offers, they can actually get so profitable and enjoyable if we impose firm boundaries. Like, for example, for my VIP days, I communicate early and often to my client that I have a hard stop at 5 p.m. Whatever is not covered within the day should be covered in another engagement, probably a half-day intensive or another VIP day. In the case of template restyles, because sometimes a client come to me with letting me know that they just need an affordable, fast website, I will offer them a template restyle wherein they can choose from a set of my templates, but then I remind them that the structure of that template should be retained and that I won't develop any custom codes for that project. And as long as those boundaries are established, these lower ticket offers can be quite enjoyable. But of course, high ticket offer has plays in our business, but they're quite nuanced. And that's why I'd like to share the pricing framework that worked for me. It might work for you as well. And I even have a calculator that you can use whenever you are on a discovery call with clients. It consists of 4 steps. First is to establish baseline pricing. What this entails is establishing baseline deliverables which you are most comfortable delivering. For a Squarespace website, it typically includes 5 to 6 key pages like this, blog post template, portfolio item template, and you can be very specific about the support. Like in my case, I offer a 30-day post handover support, and we define the corresponding price given this deliverable. So this can be based on the common ask from your past clients or whatever you most enjoy delivering. And in some cases, it might make sense for you to also have this complexity column, complexity or specialty column. I call it as such because, for example, my specialty is around creating sought after features in Squarespace through design and code. And observing my clients, not all of them needs the most unexpected section layouts. Some of them just referenced my past projects and they just want that incorporated into their projects. And so I have levels right here, like a level 1, no code, meaning I just install a bit of custom font. The rest is just maximizing built-in features of Squarespace. And then level 2 is where I just need to reference snippets from my own code toolkit. And level 3 is, for example, if based on their inspirations or reference websites, they mention some functionality that I need to custom code, then that would fall under level 3. I'd have to emphasize that these prices can change. You can stair-step your way to pricing more. And for example, the complexity is not necessarily just code. If your specialty is around SEO, for example, level 1 could be on-page SEO only, while level 2 may include keyword research. So you can create these levels based on what you typically offer. And I personally started charging $800 for these baseline deliverables when I was starting out. But because our baseline package depends on a lot of factors like market rate, operational cost, licensing, and others, I truly believe that the absolute minimum for custom projects for professional Squarespace sites is $3,000. So if you're looking into a baseline price, I recommend starting with $3,000. Personally, my baseline price right now is at $12,000. So I adjust this based on the client's value in a while, which is in level 3, but that's where I start. And then I highly recommend that you check out the pricing calculator, which you can find via squarestylist.com/pricing-guide. If you click the button to access the pricing calculator, you'll find this and you'll be able to click the fields to edit. Now, once we establish the baseline pricing, the next step is to tally additional cost of tasks. Like on the discovery call, the client would start letting me know of all the things that they want on their website. I start filling out this calculator. There is an option for you to add rows. And for example, beyond what I offer for baseline package, if for example, they want a sales page or landing page, I would add that as a row here and the corresponding price. This way I can just automatically sum it up using this calculator. And as much as possible, I add the details of the boundaries. Like sales page can get really lengthy. And so I have this boundary that this price is only for up to 10 sections of a page. And then again, feel free to add additional requirements here. And then the next step is to multiply by value levers. A value lever is a factor that can increase the value of the project to the client. This can come in many forms. For example, if they are on a deadline, then obviously they value speed. And so if the project is in a rush, I have a value factor of 20%. I multiply this sum with 1.2. That's my value factor if they value speed. Also, there are a lot of other sources of value, like if you're dealing with a high revenue company, then that's a source of value. So typically we establish our baseline price with typical clients in mind. Like for me, I established my baseline price based on small businesses, which have revenue that are less than $1 million. So when I come across a potential client with more than 1 million revenue, then I would multiply it by a value factor that feels good to me. For example, I had this one client and they just need a simple Squarespace website. I'm migrating them from another custom server and they just need 5 to 6 pages, and that fell in the baseline package. But then when I looked into their website, their current website, it seems like they are present in so many offices around the world. And that gives me an idea that they're such a high revenue company. And so I have a value factor of 25%. I multiplied my baseline package by 1.25. Back then, my baseline process was $5,000. And so I was ready to tell them that the price for the project was $7,500. But then that project ended up to be $25,000. And the reason why is the fourth step, which is consider client budget. This comes when we are in a discovery call, or even when we have in-depth questionnaire and ask the client, how much are they willing to spend for the project? Like, what investment do you have in mind? Some clients will actually have an outright answer. Like for this particular client with global offices, when I asked them during the discovery call, what investment do you have in mind? While I have the initial price of $7,500, they told me their budget was $25,000. And so I matched that price because their budget is an indication of how they value the project. It appears that they worked with custom service before. That's the range of budget that they worked with with their previous developers. And so I took on the project, and that was my highest paying project to date. So it really is worth it to ask for their budget. But not all the time the client would have an outright answer. And so sometimes I would ask them about what I would do is I have this initial price. As I mentioned, I have this calculator during the discovery call. And if I have this initial price already at the end of the call, if they didn't have a budget in mind, what I would do is I would tell them, for your scope, the typical range of the cost is $7,800 to $14,000. Just have an anchoring of a higher package, just so you'll be able to evoke a response. Like probably after you say that range, they will have some sort of a reaction on what they are willing to invest. And their reaction or whatever inputs they give me during the call will inform the pricing tiers that I will share in the proposal. Typically, I have 3 pricing tiers: essential, standard, and premium. The standard involves everything that they asked for. So most clients want everything when they launch, but then when they realize that the requirements would actually entail more time and more money, then they would actually consider sometimes the essential. I am very much comfortable just delivering the essential, and I will let them know, okay, if the budget won't be able to allow us to cover all the requirements, then we can actually phase the project and start with the essential, wherein I deliver just the baseline deliverables. And then just to check if they're willing to stretch their budget a bit, I also have my premium package tier, wherein I share an add-on, for example, a branding package or a sales page package, which I think would benefit them or would help them address their goals, but they weren't able to think of it initially. So this is how I typically share my pricing tiers. I have this column, and I'll just share the payment terms as well as the inclusion for each of these packages. If you go to squarestylist.com/pricing-guide, I also have these examples. So if it's a bit blurry at the moment, just refer to the pricing guide. And then now that we've talked about how to price, the next question is, how will we be more confident to command higher prices when we work on Squarespace projects? The key is for us to match where Squarespace excels to what the customer values. Because Squarespace is not a perfect platform. We love the platform, but there might be use cases wherein it is not the right platform to address the business needs. And we have to be transparent enough when that is the case. But I also recognize when the customer would highly benefit from the aspects where Squarespace really excels compared to other platforms. And these are some of the aspects where I think Squarespace really excels. First is ease and simplicity. I can confidently say that Squarespace is the most delightful, simplest, and design-forward interface. I've tried all sorts of platforms. I constantly try them, and I also offer other platforms, but I can confidently say that this is the case. For other designers, other fellow designers, we might try other platforms and find other platforms relatively easy too. But for our not so tech savvy clients, you might notice that once they experience Squarespace, they will find other platforms clunky, because really Squarespace, as our chief product officer told us earlier, design is at the core of Squarespace products. Squarespace also has all-in-one solution for most clients' needs. So a lot of businesses right now are diversifying into creating a shop or creating courses. And what's great is they don't need to add another tech to their tech stack. everything is managed within Squarespace because we have courses, email campaigns, domain hosting, and scheduling. When I was starting out with the idea of offering Squarespace, I actually was very hesitant because I told myself, Rache, Squarespace is so easy. How will others pay you for such an easy platform? But it turns out when I was offering these Squarespace to enterprise client, they actually are willing to pay premium to simplify their already complex process. I walked into a meeting of board of directors, and I demonstrated how easy it is to publish pages and blog posts on Squarespace. And their comment was, how is it this easy when we were chasing our developers for weeks just to publish a page? And they thank me to this day for introducing Squarespace to them. Next aspect where Squarespace excels is in creative expression. Squarespace is just beautiful out of the box. It has native elements and feature that allows us to create visually immersive and creative websites. And we know how easy it is to add galleries, images, scrolling blocks to Squarespace. But if you try other platforms, you'll be frustrated how hard it is to add galleries to blog posts or even to pages. And with coding knowledge, you can customize it even further. This is not a requirement, but if you'd like to see how the platform allows us to add customizations to push its boundaries, you may check out my website, squarestylist.com/showcase, for examples of websites that uses code. And I'd have to say, it balances creative expression with performance and use. You might have experienced other platforms where it allows you to easily drag and drop any element within the canvas. Well, that sounds easy for the designer, but actually, and you might find that Squarespace even have like grids, and it might feel a bit restricting. But I would say those grids, those parameters set by Squarespace are actually guardrails for us to make sure that our website still complies with evolving standards on accessibility, responsive design, and responsiveness. So those platforms, which allows you to add anything anywhere on the page, are actually not compliant. So this leads me to the next point, which is Squarespace is such a high quality platform. I treat it as a blank canvas. It is such a robust framework. And as I mentioned, I've tried other platforms, but Squarespace is really constantly striving to comply with ever-changing web standards and technology. Sometimes it gets frustrating when Squarespace just pushes all the updates to all websites, but that's intentional because browsers are changing, devices are changing, and we need to keep up with all those standards. And Squarespace is there to help us keep up. Squarespace is the most accessible web platform out of the box. I value accessibility as a service provider, and I actually did an accessibility test among platforms, the popular ones. I'll publish this on my website, in my blog, so please subscribe if you're interested. And based on that accessibility study, Squarespace is actually the most accessible platform out of the box. And its base framework is built considering performance and responsive design. So performance include SEO and the likes. Lastly, Squarespace excels in terms of delivering state-of-the-art security that doesn't require managing multiple plugins. And it has a generous bandwidth. As I mentioned, here in Asia, I've migrated a lot of businesses who depended on custom service to Squarespace. And one of their pain points is that they get bombarded with a lot of bandwidth limitations. Like if they get a high traffic on their site, they will get notification that they're consuming a lot of bandwidth. And if you also look into other platforms, you look into their pricing grid, you'll find that they impose bandwidth limitations. Well, Squarespace is also implementing fair usage, but because of its sophisticated infrastructure, it allows us to support high traffic sites with high storage. So yeah, I am so excited to hear your thoughts about these as well. And if you have more interesting ideas on what sets Squarespace apart. Lastly, To boost our confidence in pricing our work, I mentioned a lot about having a specialty. And I'd like to mention that a specialty, or others call it a niche, it doesn't have to be like a specific industry or audience. It can be based on your style. Like, for example, if you have a specific visual flair or aesthetics, if you like vintage or editorial, then that's something you can lead with, something that you can be known for. Other ways by which you can specialize is by leveraging in your abilities and expertise. If you are a copywriter, then you can combine that with your Squarespace skills, and that's what you can communicate as your specialty. And sensibility is about determining what resonates with you in terms of values, interests, and community. I have students, for example, who specializes in serving kind businesses. Those are businesses who value their footprint in nature, as well as paying fair compensation. And if you identify these specialty, you may even combine them. The moment you combine them, you'll be surprised of how specialized you become. And once you know you specialize in something, you'll know when you're pricing that you become a more indispensable brand or service provider. So those are thoughts about pricing and pitching Squarespace projects. I'm so excited to know more about your questions. Yeah, I think we have some time for questions. We openly advertise our pricing on our website. We find it funnels out the tire kickers, and if people contact us, they come knowingly roughly what they opt for. Looking around, we don't see this a lot. Okay, so I highly recommend having mid-ticket offers, like, for example, your design intensives. Let me just go to that slide where I shared more about mid-ticket offers. I totally think these mid-ticket offers can have fixed pricing, but as much as possible for your high-ticket offers, there's a lot of factors involved. As I mentioned, there are clients who are actually willing to pay $25,000, even if you only have $7,000 in mind. And so if you have that on your webpage, then you will lose that opportunity, right? So I totally believe if you have like strategy intensives, website audits, that's something that you can display on your website, or you can have a range of how much it is to work with you. Sometimes I lead with my strategy intensives. Strategy intensives are like website audits. Like, for example, if someone reached out to me and I feel like they do not fall within the typical deliverables that I take on, I let them know that we can actually start with a strategy intensive. It is where I get to know more about their business, and then I come up with a roadmap on how to get there. So the deliverable of this strategy intensive is, one, a website strategy document outlining what features of the website I can add or how I can redesign their website to achieve their goals. Again, it's always connected to their business goals. And then another deliverable of this strategy intensives is the proposal. So I will share with them, based on what you need, this is what it looks like if I will take on the implementation. So if they decided that they want to continue working with me, then that the price of the cost of the strategy intensive will be applied towards the cost and pricing. So this way, even if they don't continue working with me, I still get compensated for all the research that I've done, especially if it involves adding extensions or migrating from another platform to Squarespace. There. Yeah, let me know if you have other questions. As I mentioned, you may access the pricing calculator via squarestylist.com/pricing-guide. There are other examples and resources that I've indicated right there. Jan asks, how do you deal with different markets valuing your service differently? For example, I can charge a lot more to my US-based clients than I can to local NZ clients. The key is to change our perspective around it. Your baseline package does not depend on where you are. And I totally relate, because I am from the Philippines. We are a developing country, and I totally thought I cannot charge anything beyond $1,000. And initially, I wasn't taking on direct clients, because I only do white label clients for agencies, because I was so intimidated by the fact that English is not my native language, that I am from a developing country, and so I can only just do white label projects. But the moment I identified what I specialize in, I know that I have a special skill. I've identified that I can create sought after features in Squarespace, and it would be hard for any client to find another service provider like me. And so that's when I had the confidence to charge the same for, even if I'm from the Philippines, I'm based in the Philippines, they're based in the US, it doesn't matter. Our pricing should not depend on our location. I hope that helps. And if you have other questions, let me know. Not sure if I missed any questions in the chat. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. Means a lot to me. Thank you. And you may always, I'd love to connect with other Squarespace designers. I am very active on Instagram. So you can check my social media account. And on my website, I have other resources for you. Vera asks, do you include copywriting into your website prices? I don't. So what I actually do, I'm very upfront with my clients that I specialize in design and code. And so anything other than that is not my specialization, but I do give them support. Like in my process, I have copy prompts. These are questions. I have a copy framework, questions to guide them on what to write per page. These are based on time-tested copy frameworks, and I also share examples. I encourage them to write their copy, or if they can't, I encourage them to engage a copywriter. So I don't include that as part of my zone of excellence, but I do give them support. For example, if they ask me, okay, do you have a recommendation for a copywriter? I would refer them to a conversion copywriter whom I trust. Shannon asks, I'm trying to find out what an appropriate rate would be for my services, but most other providers don't list their prices. That's a good question. I think for Squarespace projects, as I mentioned, for custom ones, based on these deliverables, the absolute minimum is at $3,000. But most of my students are actually charging $5,000 or more for these deliverables. So I know others don't publish their prices, but I think like based on these common prices, you can use it as a starting point. Lisa asks, do you offer SEO in your baseline? I do, basic SEO setup. So again, it's not something that I highlight because I don't claim to be an expert in SEO. If the client come to me not valuing design and they instead just value SEO, I would tell them I'm not the proper expert for the job, but I do know a lot about SEO. I do keyword research, I do all of those, but I don't necessarily add them to my baseline deliverables. What I do is I just have an SEO checklist. In my SEO checklist, I do lighthouse checks for them. Those are part of my process because, of course, my goal is always to come up with a professional level Squarespace site. So that's part of my process. But I don't do keyword research for them. I do on-page SEO. That means I will add metadata, like image alt text to the images, and then all the other SEO tasks in the checklist. All of those are included in my usual process. So yeah, it's included, but not something that I really include in the baseline deliverables. I think those are standard inclusions, because a professional Squarespace website should be tested for SEO, responsiveness, and accessibility. Yeah, I'm not sure if we have. Yeah, I hope this was a helpful session. I think we still have some more time for questions. Oh, Melanie asks about the slides. There will definitely be a slide, a replay, I believe. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So happy that we have a dedicated session for the APAC region. Again, I'm just from the Philippines. We have the same time zone. Feel free to reach out. I'm so happy to connect with all of you. Thanks, Squarespace, for this opportunity.